Stop the belt! The conveyor screeched and jerked to a halt. Suitcases shivered, then froze in place. Heads snapped toward the man in the Navy suit who had just stepped past the authorized personnel-only line at baggage claim 6. "You can't be in there, sir," a supervisor called, jogging over. He didn't slow. He reached for the yellow vest the ramp agent tossed him, shrugged it on, and leaned over the metal edge. "Oversize 3 now," he said into the agent's radio without asking. "Pull the gray igloo cooler with NOAA tape, then the foldable wheelchair, red handles, tag 23A. Priority is medical and mobility." "Sir, you don't have authority," the supervisor tried again. The ramp agent looked between them, then into her headset. "Hold," he said. "Medical, oversize 3, you copy." The man on the belt, dark hair, clean shoes, dusted in airport grit now, turned, voice low and steady. "You know me, Tasha." Her mouth opened, then closed. Recognition landed. "Mr. Navarro," he nodded once. The crew stilled. The people around the carousel stared. He pointed toward the crowd. "She's in blue. Boy with the green dinosaur backpack. Get the cooler to her now." He didn't look like a celebrity. He looked like a passenger who had decided rules moved for him. He moved like someone who understood exactly which rules would. The cooler appeared at oversize within seconds, carried fast by a handler in neon earmuffs. A young mother in a wrinkled blouse raised both hands, eyes wet, knees buckling. People stepped back without being asked. The belt stayed off. First-class tags, the glossy ones with gold edging, sat motionless under fluorescent light. "Why are you stopping priority?" a man in a linen jacket shouted, face red. "This is unacceptable." The man in the vest didn't answer him. He was watching the little boy with the dinosaur backpack press his forehead into his mother's hip. The boy's continuous glucose monitor had been beeping since touchdown. That sound had followed them down the aisle, past people who had stood up too soon. A flight attendant appeared at the edge of the crowd, cheeks flushed, uniform neat. "Sir, please," she said softly. "Our team can handle this." He glanced at her badge, Clara, then he looked past her to the cluster of first-class passengers, arms crossed, voices rising. He looked past them to the economy families clinging to carts, eyes moving between the belt and the boy. He turned back to the crew. "Finish letting them out," he said, nodding at the wheelchair. "Then we can talk." He didn't raise his voice. No one moved until the red-handled chair slid into view and a thin man in a baseball cap exhaled in relief. The mother snapped open the cooler with shaking hands. The boy stared at the fresh ice packs, the little vials cushioned inside, the thermometer blinking back into a safe range. "Who even is he?" someone asked. Tasha answered without taking her eyes off her team. "He's the CEO of Bay & Cold Chain. The reason half your vaccines made the trip this year." The linen jacket man's mouth snapped shut. The boys' beeping slowed, then mercifully fell silent. Earlier, before any of them knew his name, he had sat in 2A and lifted his hand once. The first request was small. "Can this cooler go in the front fridge?" He asked, gesturing toward the young mother in row 42 juggling backpack, paperwork, and the gray box with NOAA written in black tape. "It's insulin." She asked for ice twice. "It won't hold for the whole flight." The first-class cabin acted like he hadn't spoken at all. A man in sunglasses rubbed hand sanitizer slow between his fingers. "If they can't keep it cold, they shouldn't be flying." A woman with a pearl bracelet didn't look up from her tablet. "Policy is policy, otherwise it'll be everyone's lunch in there." The purser glanced between the gentleman in 2A and the galley. "Sir, the bar fridge is for service," she explained carefully. "We have limited space." "After service," he said, "just for the last hour." "There are rules," the pearl bracelet woman said, finally meeting his eyes. She looked him up and down. She saw a dark suit, a tan, a face she didn't recognize. "We paid for this experience." He turned to the flight attendant at the curtain. "What's your name?" "Eddie," the young man said, already pained. "I asked the galley, we can bring ice." "It's a medical device," he said, pointing to the cooler, but he didn't raise his voice. "Not lunch. If it warms, it's ruined." Sunglasses tapped his boarding pass against his knee. "Is he part of the crew now?" The mother's voice floated from down the aisle. "It's okay, we'll just do the ice. Sorry." She wasn't making a scene, she was apologizing. The man in 2A watched her push the cooler under the seat, holding it with both hands when the plane pushed back. He looked at the purser again. "Please," her radio hissed. She listened. "I'm sorry, sir, no." He didn't push. He reached into his laptop bag, pulled out a slim digital thermometer and a little white pack. He handed both to Eddie. "Tell her to put this in the cooler under the ice." It'll beep if it warms. We'll adjust. Eddie blinked. You carry a thermometer. The man almost smiled. Occupational hazard. The seatbelt sign dinged. The plane climbed. Somewhere over the sea the cabin dimmed. People in 1A through 4F ordered wines by taste. He didn't. He watched row 42. Every 20 minutes the woman tapped the cooler. Her fingers came back wet. She asked for more ice. Eddie brought it every time. First class shifted, sighed, whispered. The purser kept her eyes on the galley, jaw tight. 3 hours in, the little device in the cooler started beeping. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The sound cut sharper than any announcement. The mother's face went white. She yanked the cooler open, saw the number on the thermometer, and bit her lip. I'm sorry, she said to Eddie again, out of habit. Can we get more ice, please? Eddie was already moving. The cart wheels squeaked. A calfskin loafer angled into the aisle. Are we out of ice up here now? Pearl Bracelet murmured, not bothering to lower her voice. Eddie didn't answer. He dumped fresh ice into the gray box, hands shaking. Water sloshed over the edges and soaked the airplane carpet. Sunglasses lifted his feet. Do you have a freezer pack? The man in 2A asked Eddie quietly. Only gel, Eddie said. No space, I'm sorry. The man in 2A stood. He didn't wait for the belt sign. He moved down the aisle, past Gimlet's scented glasses, past eyes narrowed over the tops of phones. He crouched by row 42 and showed the mother the thermometer. We're okay, he said. Right now we're okay. Pack it tight. Don't open unless you have to. She nodded too fast. Thank you. He slipped a business card under the cooler, face down. The mother didn't look at it. Sunglasses watched him walk back. Heroics and humidity, he muttered. The plane started its descent. The captain made the tidy speech. The cabin woke. People stood before the ding. The aisle filled with torsos and luggage and impatience. 1 minute, the man in 2A said, not loud, but to the front rows, hand up again. Let the mother in 42 and a wheelchair in 23 out first, please. Pearl Bracelet laughed without humor. You can't tell an entire cabin what to do. The ding sounded, belts snapped, the wall of bodies held. In row 42, the mother hugged the cooler to her chest and tried to edge into the aisle. A man with a backpack blocked her without looking, both arms overhead, both shoulders wedged. The man in 2A watched it play out like every deplaning he had seen since travel started again. The purser watched him watching. She didn't move the curtain. There was nowhere to move it to. He sat back down. He didn't try to fight the river with his hands. He took out his phone. The airplane mode toggled off on final. He typed into a thread labeled Ops MNL/Arrivals B6 with 4-starred names on it. Baggage 6. Need cold storage immediately. Gray cooler Noah from 42E. Stop belt if you have to. Authority MN. He added a number only 3 people at the airport had in their phones, hit send, and put the device away before anyone could ask him to. At the door, the purser pulled the curtain and called goodbye now. Thanks for flying, the most practiced sentence in aviation. She paused when he came close. Sir, she said, softer than before. You can't intervene like that. He held her eyes a beat, then he nodded. Understood. On the jet bridge, the temperature hit like a damp hand. He walked, then waited, then watched the mother in 42 come out with her son and the gray box. The boy was quiet now. His lips were chapped. The cooler beeped again for a second, then went quiet. He saw her look down, saw her press, saw the number climb, stabilize, nestle above red. When he came into the concourse, he was just another suited man with a rolling bag. When he reached baggage claim 6, he was something else. Stop the belt, he said. Now, with the cooler open and solid cold settling back into those vials, with the boy's shoulders loosened and that beep finally gone, the linen jacket man came forward, still stinging. This is ridiculous. People in premium have meetings. The man in the vest finally looked at him, not unkindly, just like someone measuring whether it was worth spending a sentence. You'll make it, he said. Then he turned to Tasha. After the wheelchair, resume the belt, but hold first-class tags until last. The crowd went dizzy quiet. The flight attendant Clara's mouth parted. Sir, we can, Tasha said, eyes on him. The belt hummed. Bags slid out, the ripped duffel with hockey sticks, the overstuffed suitcase with a purple ribbon. Families cheered names in 3 languages. People clapped when the red-handled chair came through intact, and the man in the baseball cap shook his head until he covered his eyes. Eddie stood near the boundary, trapped between clan and company. He watched the man in the vest turn to the mother and say 2 words barely anyone else caught. I'm sorry. She nodded like she understood more than he said. The linen jacket man wasn't done. What gives you the right? The supervisor with the headset spoke first. He signs the checks that keep your dinner cold at 38,000 feet. A murmur started, widening in circles. A younger man in a hoodie whispered into his phone, thumb flying. Names poured bay in cold chain. Miguel Navarro, CEO, cargo partner, vaccines, insulin. Freight that mattered more than luggage ever could. Clara stepped closer, voice low. Sir, she said, almost pleading now that she knew. We didn't know. If we had known, you knew enough, he said, not cruel, just plain. You heard insulin, that should be enough. She winced like the words hit something tender. We have policy and complaints from 12 seats that cost a lot, he finished. He watched her swallow. I understand margins. I understand service levels. I also understand a beep that means a kid could get sick on your watch. I tried, Eddie blurted. I kept bringing ice. His mouth tilted. I saw. Then to Clara again. This isn't about blame, it's about what happens next. What happens next? Pearl bracelet had drifted down, drawn by the gravity of a man people were suddenly careful with. He turned away from her. He looked at Tasha, the ramp lead who could run a carousel with her eyes half closed. How many aircraft does Blue Sky run out of Manila daily? 17, Tasha said without missing. How many have medical-grade cool pouches on board? None, she said. We have gel packs, that's it. He nodded once. By end of month, that changes. He looked to Clara. You'll get kits with temperature-logging coolers. Crew training on medical exceptions. A policy that fits the world we're actually in. He tapped his vest. We'll absorb cost for rollout. Send the invoice to the address on the card I gave Eddie. And one more thing. Clara tilted, bracing. When someone in row 42 says insulin, the answer can't be no because row 2 might get warm champagne. Put that in the manual. Sign it with my name if you need to. Clara's throat worked. She nodded. Yes, sir. He looked at the mother again. She wasn't listening. She was finishing with a nurse's efficiency what the airline and a dozen strangers' eyes had made harder than it needed to be. The boy slipped a sticker out of his pocket. It had a dinosaur with a pilot hat. He tugged the man's sleeve. For you, he said solemnly. The man crouched, vest catching the fluorescent light. Thanks, Captain. The linen jacket man adjusted his cuffs one more time. This doesn't change anything, he muttered, but there was less acid in it now, more uncertainty. He reached for a bag that didn't arrive. He waited with everyone else. People started asking Tasha questions now that they knew someone was listening. Where do we get wheelchairs faster? Can we tag strollers to come out with oversize? She answered all of them because she always did. Today just felt different. A ground manager in a crisp white shirt elbowed in, sweat blooming under his tie. Mr. Navarro, he gasped, you should have called me. You were on break, Tasha said under her breath without looking their way. The manager straightened. I'll coordinate with corporate. This is highly irregular. Put that in your email, Miguel said. Copy me, copy your COO. And copy Leila from our legal. She's friendlier than she sounds. The manager blinked. We have a contract renewal next week. We do. Miguel adjusted the vest, settled back into the knowledge of how much the room had shifted around him. It didn't make him taller. It just made people choose their next words. Is this a threat? The manager asked, trying for a smile and landing nowhere. It's a promise, Miguel said, eyes returning to the belt. We'll renew with a clause, medical empathy training, measurable response times, crew discretion that's backed by policy, not punished by it. He softened a fraction. Your team is good, let them be better. The manager didn't know where to put his hands. Yes, sir. The belt kept bringing lives in circles. A tiny Pomeranian with a bow barked from a carrier and the crowd laughed, a release valve opening. The mother in blue slid the cooler into a new bag a handler brought, one of Bayan's, bright white, temperature stable, with a sensor that fed to a phone app. Eddie dropped to his knees to help zip it. Clara waved off a first-class passenger who tried to step around them to reach for a bag with a gold tag. Wait, Clara told the passenger, not loud, enough. Who made you God? The passenger snapped. No one, Clara said. She glanced once at Miguel. Just trying something different. The sentiment spread. A man with a backpack stepped aside to let an older woman through. The teen in a hoodie scooped a toddler's fallen shoe and held it up until a mother saw it and blew him a grateful kiss. Expert kindness. Quick, free. This is how change looks in public, not a speech, but a series of tiny reroutes. Sir, Tasha said, when the last of the economy bags thudded down and the red-handled chair disappeared under a grateful man. We can release first class now. Miguel nodded. Release. The gold-edged tags came in a rush. Linen jacket shot forward, caught his bag, and then paused. He looked back at the mother, at the vest, at the boy in the dinosaur backpack. His mouth opened, closed. He didn't say sorry, it wasn't that kind of day. He rolled away quieter than he had arrived. Pearl Bracelet watched her suitcase slide by. She didn't move fast enough. A bellhop of a husband snagged it for her. "You're welcome," he said, pushing it into her hands. She stared at Miguel like she might say something, then decided against it. Clara exhaled. The ground manager checked his phone, tapping furiously. Eddie leaned against the pillar, eyes shining until he wiped them with the back of his hand. Miguel unclipped the vest and handed it back to Tasha. "You kept it efficient," he said. She snorted. "You kept it interesting." He smiled at that. It hit the corners of his eyes. "You ever think of moving upstairs?" "Only when the air con breaks down here," she said, then looked at him. She softened her jaw. "Sir, for what it's worth, most days nobody says anything. They just get mad later. It's nice when someone says something." He shrugged. "It's only useful if next time they don't have to." He glanced to where the mother was packing up, finding her kid's little cap snapping the strap under his chin. He stepped over. She noticed him and stood a little straighter. "Thank you," she said, "for the ice, for whatever this is." He nodded. "You shouldn't have needed it." "I know." She looked down at the cooler, ran her hand over the new bag with the crisp logo. "What do I owe you?" "Nothing," he said. "Keep the bag, the app is on the card." She reached into her pocket, pulled out his card, creased, damp around the edges. She read the name finally, her eyes lifted. "You're," he cut her off gently. "Just someone whose job is easier when people like you don't have to beg." Her mouth trembled, but she kept it steady. She glanced at her son. "Can we take your picture?" she asked, already shaking her head. "No, it's okay, you probably don't." He looked at the boy instead. "Captain," he asked, "can I get a picture with you and your dinosaur?" The boy grinned, teeth missing and glorious. He held the sticker up between them. Eddie snapped the photo, hands level. In the background, luggage kept coming, lives kept moving, everything the same and not. Clara waited until the moment passed to step forward. "Sir," she said carefully, "for the record, I should have made a different call, not because of who you are." "Because of what it was," she swallowed. "I'll write it up." He weighed that. A punished purser wouldn't change much, an educated one would. "Write up a recommendation," he said. "I'll back it." She nodded once, relief and resolve crisscrossing her face. "Yes, sir." Tasha's radio crackled. "Mechanic to Carousel 8, a voice said. "Belt jam." She sighed, back to work. She looked to Miguel. "Are you going to be all noble and slip away now?" "Something like that," he said. He checked his phone. 4 emails already landed in his inbox. Legal, operations, an apology from a VP who'd heard, a single-line message from a board member, "Heard you stopped a carousel." "Nice," he chuckled. "Tell your team dinner's on me," he said to Tasha. "After shift, no alcohol on the floor or I'll get the emails." Her smile widened. "Copy that." He picked up his own carry-on finally. It had a priority tag he hadn't needed. He looked at it, pulled it off, folded it in half, and tucked it in the trash before anyone could see. As he walked toward the exit, the airport smells, popcorn, pretzels, jet fuel rose and mingled. People flowed around him, heads bent, bags rolling. He looked like any other traveler again. He passed the linen jacket man. The man hesitated, like he had a question he'd never asked before. "Would that have worked?" he asked slowly, "if it weren't you?" Miguel considered him. "Should have," he said. Then he kept walking. At the automatic doors, the motion sensor clicked. Warm air whooshed, lights from taxis streaked, horns murmured themselves into the city's lullaby. He paused for half a second at the threshold, watching the mother fasten her son into the airport stroller with careful hands, the cooler secured under the seat, the sensor blinking green, green, green. The little boy blew a raspberry at the automatic door like it might laugh back. It didn't. Eddie did. The purser lifted her phone already, typing something that wasn't a restraint memo. Tasha yelled at a forklift operator with affection enough to cause compliance. The ground manager loosened his tie. Miguel slid into a waiting car that wasn't waiting for him, because cars at airports aren't for people, they're for momentum. He closed the door. His phone vibrated. A message from Ops MNL/arrivals B6 blinked up. "Done. Already ordering kits." He typed back, "Thank you. Policy draft by tomorrow." And 2 words more because he meant them. "Good work." The driver glanced in the rearview. "Good flight, sir." Miguel looked out at the belt of baggage claim through glass, through people, through movement he had nudged just a hair. "Better landing," he said. By the time the car reached the ramp, the luggage carousel at Claim 6 had spun down to silence again. The last gold tag had been plucked by a man who didn't look quite so certain of his place in every line anymore. The wheelchair man's family was hugging him at the curb, kissing his cheeks like he had just returned from the moon. Nobody announced anything on a loudspeaker, no hashtag trended, no reprimands were shouted. A few receipts would get adjusted, a few trainings would get scheduled, a few phrases would get written into manuals with bullets and details, medical exception protocol, insulin handling, crew latitude. The crew who'd watched a suited Filipino stop the belt would carry that image into their next flight. The passengers who'd watched their bags wait while a cooler got cold would carry that watch into their next queue. Little things tilt bigger ones. The stun on faces at baggage 6 softened into thought. Then it became a new normal that would sit quiet until the next time a beep started up, and someone in 2A or 42E or behind a curtain didn't have to ask twice.